Many thanks to Brian Berenblatt and Izzy Posen and Leonard Ormond and others who have all helped in producing this beautifully, professionally done little booklet on the debate that I had with Lord Jacobowitz all those years ago. Reading it has brought back all the warm memories of Ner Yisrael 30 years ago, the enthusiasm of the community, which Baruch Hashem continues to go from strength to strength under the inspired leadership of Rabbi Zobin, and brings back for me also memories of the warm friendship I had with the late Rabbi Lord Jacobowitz, which, despite the fact that he was 30 years my senior, we had a very close friendship. That friendship led to all sorts of discussions and debates privately. I was in his home, he was in my home. And eventually we decided to have a public debate centered around the events of that time. And that's the context really of this book. As we know, the Oslo Accords of 1993, and this picture on the cover of Rabin and Arafat and the President of America, who got together to shake hands on the lawn of the White House, I think it was, or maybe it was in Camp David. I must be honest with you, this photo turns my stomach, as it's really a photo of the highest forms of lunacy and deceit and incomprehension on behalf of all three of the people there, but that's maybe for another time. However, this particular discussion contained lots of very, very fascinating insights into our approach to Medinas Yisrael and the land of Israel, Bismanenu, in our time. Sadly, the events of October the 7th, the unspeakable horror of October the 7th, the massacre of innocent people in Kfar Aza and Be'eri and all the other Yishuvim in that area, is something which has changed all of us and really given us a perspective to reevaluate the future of the state of Israel and its Arab inhabitants and neighbors. I'll call upon it very briefly. My position really advanced in this booklet and in the debate on three levels. The first level was that I believe then, and I believe now, that it's halachically forbidden to give away any land to a non-Jew in Israel. This goes against the Posuk Lo Sechonim, but much deeper than that. It hashkafically and fundamentally, it's based on an understanding. The Torah uses twice in the Chumash the word Morosha. The word Morosha appears in V'zos HaBracha, Torah Tziv Alon and Moshe Morosha Kilas Yaakov. The Torah itself is called a Morosha, and the land of Israel in the beginning of Parshas Vayera is also referred to as a V'nosati Lachem Morosha Ani Hashem. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu speak about the land of Israel. What does Morosha mean? So very, very briefly, the word Yerusha means an inheritance. A person who is an heir to the estate of someone who has passed away gets an inheritance. When he gets this inheritance, he becomes the new owner. He can do with it whatever he likes. He can keep it and treasure it, or he can sell it and give it away, whatever he likes. It becomes his private property. A Morosha is something completely different. It's something which you get indeed as an inheritance, but you don't get it as the new owner, because the Pasuk says in the Torah, Ki li ha'oretz, the land belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ki geirim v'toshovim atem imodi, you are tenants of mine. We are tenants of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We don't have ownership. We are not owners. We are custodians of a heritage which is called Eretz Yisrael, and the goal is to keep it as best we can and to hand it on intact to the next generation. That's our goal. Just like the Torah, we're not allowed to cut and paste the Torah, chas v'shalom, in order to adapt it to modernity. Similarly, we're not allowed to cut up the land of Israel and give it away to other people in order to deal with current political problems. It's simply, we don't have the mandate to do so. It's forbidden to do so. And the example that I brought was from the covenant, the bris that Avram Avinu made with Abimelech in Parshas Vayera, which Chazal understood as being a major strategic error of Avram Avinu, from which Klal Yisrael suffered for centuries. In fact, we find in the beginning of Sefer Yoshua and also the chapter 1 of Sefer Shoftim, that even though Yoshua takes the Jewish people into the land of Israel and conquers and settles the land of Israel, he's unable to conquer and settle one area of the Yevusi. Why not? If you look in Rashi, the Medrash, the Rishonim, they say because Avram Avinu had made this peace treaty with Avimelech, and because of that, he had given away sovereignty. And 400 years later, they're still suffering from this until David HaMelech is crowned king in the city of Hebron, and then he marches with his army to Yerushalayim and captures it, and then it's dealt with. But giving away a piece of land to other people in Israel is seen there as being the greatest error possible, which causes centuries of suffering. The Jewish people suffered more from the Pelishtim in the Tanakh than they suffered from any other nation. And this is all due to the fact that Avram made this mistake. Anyhow, that's part of my argument here, that halachically, hashkafically, historically, and theologically, it's a fundamental error to even believe that we have the right to give away a piece of land. That is my first point. The counter-argument to that might be, and that's what Rav Jacobowitz was trying to argue, and that is that there is, when one talks halacha, there is a concept of pikuach nefesh. If it's a life-threatening situation, you often find that pikuach nefesh overrides certain halachic prohibitions. And that's what he was claiming, that by giving away land, we can save lives, we can get peace. So my argument to that, against that, was twofold. First of all, it's quite clear from the poskim that when you're dealing with a battle against your enemies, a battle to conquer and settle the land of Israel, there is no pikuach nefesh consideration. For the simple reason that if there was a pikuach nefesh question, we could never go to battle at all, because every battle obviously requires people to be willing to give up their life. If we're going to apply the principle of pikuach nefesh to the battle to conquer and settle the land of Israel, we have to walk away from the whole thing. We have to leave it behind and go and live in Golders Green and in Brooklyn. And therefore, it's inconceivable, and it makes no sense at all that pikuach nefesh should be a consideration at all in a battle context against our enemies. That's point number one. Point number two is that what was Oslo? What were we getting in exchange for this peace treaty with the Palestinians? We were making a peace treaty with the PLO. We were giving them autonomy. We were giving them land, we were giving them guns, giving them money, giving them international status, and in return we got a piece of paper with Arafat's signature on it. That was it. A promise that he would pursue peace, peaceful coexistence. A promise that he never ever kept any part of that promise. And the truth is that that document itself, as I argued you'll see in the booklet, I said had the same amount of value as the 1939 Peace in Our Time letter that Neville Chamberlain held aloft with the signature of Adolf Hitler on it. And it was just a complete strategy on behalf of a man who's completely corrupt, completely evil, completely dedicated to murder and destruction. He'll sign anything and lie all the time in order to achieve his goals, and that's what was happening here. He never ever had any intention for peace, and therefore to argue that giving away land for peace was an act of going towards pikuach nefesh, saving lives, is in itself a mistake. Thirdly, and this is on a much bigger level, and that is that the whole concept of Oslo, and later on in 2005, I think it was, the disengagement, the Hitnatkut, the dissolving the Gush Katif people and expelling all the Jews, the Girush from Gush Katif, that all was based on the following idea, that really just because we love peace and we will do anything to have peaceful coexistence and not to have to fight, it must be that they also love peace. It must be, and even though they speak about war and they speak about murder and they speak about destruction, and the Hamas Charter says explicitly time and time again that they're dedicated to the goal of eradicating and massacring every single Jew on the land in compliance with the will of Allah, all this, the Israeli leadership took the view that was just what they were saying because they had to say, but they didn't really mean it. And the truth is, history has proven that when people say they want to destroy Jews, believe them. They do want to do it. And that is really the delusion that lay at the heart of Oslo and of the disengagement. The delusion that we believe that because we want peace, they also want peace. And they've only been angry because they are in some way underprivileged, and they haven't got land, they haven't got autonomy. Let's give them everything they ask for, and then they'll be happy, and then there'll be peaceful coexistence. I remember discussing this with my late friend, Rabbi Sachs, Zechron Levracha, and he pointed me out a book, as he always did, written by someone called Lee Harris, just after 9/11, called The Suicide of Reason, in which Lee Harris goes through this whole delusion detail by detail. If you haven't read the book, read it. Lee Harris, The Suicide of Reason, and in it he says that the West, so long as they believe that the Islamic fundamentalists really want peace and that they are potentially partners in peaceful coexistence, we are doomed. We have to get used to the idea, and this is a drasha that Sachs gave on Parshas Amalek, that the mitzvah of Zocher Esher Osir Achar Amalek is the mitzvah to recognize evil when you see it. And this evil is dedicated to murder and destruction and to death, unlike anything that we could possibly even imagine. And that we shouldn't think that because we want peace, they also want peace. They haven't even got a word for peace. They don't educate towards peace. They only educate towards victory and supremacy. And this is the great delusion of the Oslo Agreement and of Hitnatkut. And this is actually in Israel today, they've got a word for this. They call it HaKonceptzia. HaKonceptzia is the concept that was so accepted in Israel, which was based on unbelievable arrogance of invincibility, that we only have to convince ourselves that the Palestinians want peace, and then they'll want peace, and then we can welcome them into our homes, and they can become and into our hotels, and into our hospitals, and into our pharmacies, and they'll be peaceful people because we're giving them jobs and we're giving them money. And in actual fact, this whole fight, sadly, is driven by a maniac religious drive where they falsely believe that somehow Allah wants them to kill and be killed and destroy, and nothing else is important. And sadly, October the 7th has demonstrated this beyond any doubt. In short, this was a debate which was not a happy debate. It was a debate about sad things. It took place in a context of Derech Eretz, in a community, Milchamto Shel Torah, and that we are, Be'ezus Hashem, the publication of this book is an opportunity to revisit a very important moment in the lives, in my life and the lives of the leadership in the UK and worldwide, and to re-examine some of these principles. And once again, I thank you all very much for the publication of this booklet. And please God, we have to daven for Chazdei Hashem to protect us in these difficult times. Amen.